we upgrade Mew VMAX, or is it already good enough? Hey everyone, it's me Joji, and today we're going to be taking a look at another upgrade for a League Battle deck. The latest League Battle deck to come out, Mew VMAX. Now this thing is a juggernaut. At the release of Fusion Strike and some Brilliant Stars, almost all online tournaments were getting dominated by this deck, and for good reason. Mew VMAX is an amazing card, and we'll show you off in a second. But this is a League Battle deck video. Can we upgrade this? Short answer, yes. Get a second one. Longer answer, there are things that we can take out of a second one that you can repurpose for the first one. But if you're trying to save some money, maybe just get the cards on their own. But let's take a look at how we're going to upgrade this League Battle deck today. Okay, so as I said, this thing can be upgraded. Although it is a Mew VMAX, it is incomplete in my opinion. Let's just take a look at the back here. You can get a quick sneak peek at what we're getting. And if you look at the numbers up here for some of the Mew cards, and obviously in the front, in the window, it is missing a few cards, I'd say, from a complete Mew VMAX deck that you would see running in a tournament. So let's go ahead and get the contents out of this so I can show it off exactly what the numbers are. And then afterwards, let's go into an upgrade. As always, this video does have chapters, so if you're looking just for the upgrade part, go ahead and check it down below. But if you want to see the contents of this product, we're going to go into it right now. Okay, so starting off, obviously this Mew VMAX needs to come with some Mews. We start off with 2 here. 2 of the Mew VMAX and 2 Genesect. And this is why I say it's incomplete, because as you'll see in the upgrade, I think we should add 2 of each one of these. But let's move on to what else is in this box. 2 acrylic counters here for both burn and poison. We have a League Battle box here with the rest of the, I believe, 54 cards that come in this deck, as well as some dice here, some damage counters in a nice, like, Mew purple, more of a Mewtwo purple, really. And then this interesting, almost Fusion Strike color die. Maybe that's what they were going for this. Obviously, we get a code card for you guys to try out this deck on ptcgo or ptcgl now, plus some instructions, surprisingly, on how to upgrade this deck. And wouldn't you believe it, but it does say to add those exact Genesect Vs, Mewtwo Vs, and VMAX. It says 1 Mew VMAX, I'd say 2. We'll see if we add the Echoing Horn and Punkaboo. Obviously the meta has changed. There's also some cards you can cut from this deck. Speaking of cards in this deck to cut, let's actually take a look at the contents of this box. So starting off with the Pokemon, we do of course again have those 2 Mew, the 2 Mew VMAX, the 2 Genesect, and then for cards that were in the box, we have 3 Meloetta, which is most likely going to be your other attacker other than Mew. We have 2 Deoxys, which is an interesting addition. It is a League Battle deck, so it is with its obvious things to cut, and I'm going to say right now, this is probably something we're cutting. And then we finish off with Pokemon with the Oricorio here, which, if you didn't know, has been making its rounds in some of the competitive ones with its Lesson of Zeal, allowing you to take 20 less damage, making your Mew VMAX more like 330 HP. Now we're not going to see a lot of draw supporters in this deck. As you'll see, we do have a 4 copy of Alessa's Sparkle. This is to add on some of the energy later. And then we have a 4 stack of Boss's Orders. Now, as you can kind of imagine, that seems like a very little amount of supporters, but you have to remember Genesect V, with its Fusion Strike system, lets you draw based on how many Fusion Strike Pokemon you have in play. So this is your draw support. This is what you're going to want to put onto your bench as soon as possible. Moving on to some item cards, we are starting off with the 4 set of Ultra Ball here. Obviously a great card, but keep in mind you have to discard 2 cards for this. On the bright side, you can use this in conjunction with the Fusion Strike system to make your hand smaller and then use one of those abilities. Moving on, we have some Fog Crystals here to grab your Mews and your Meloettas. We have Power Tablets to increase the damage of your Fusion Strike Pokemon by 30 for each one used. Very helpful, especially since you're not doing a lot of damage by copying over its attack. Speaking of which, I completely forgot to go over that. Mew VMAX, why is it so good? That cross fusion strike. It lets you copy the attack of any fusion strike Pokemon in play. So if you wanted to, you could copy Mew VMAX's Psychic Leap in order to put it back into your deck, letting you avoid a knockout potentially, or you can copy Genesect's attack and do 220 damage, but you can't attack next turn. You can even copy Meloetta's attack here, which does more damage based on the amount of Fusion Strike energy you have attached. And to a lesser extent, you could copy Deoxys or Oricorio, but more than likely you're going to be copying Genesect, Meloetta, or regular Mew V's attack. Okay, getting back to the items we were looking at, we have some Battle VIP passes, 4 of them, which are going to be helpful because you're going to be wanting to grab your Mews, your Genesects, and your Meloettas with that. Maybe the Oricorio, just so you can avoid getting that 20 tick damage somehow. But remember, you have to get these on your first turn. Other than that, they're fodder for you to use on your Ultra Balls, and maybe we'll see another way to discard them in a second, such as the Cramomatic. This thing lets you grab something from your discard pile and put it at the top of your deck. And in conjunction with Genesect, you would draw it almost immediately. So again, you can use the battle passes in order to play these here. All right, we're almost done with our item cards. We're finishing off with 2 switch cards, another type of switch, but it's an escape rope, some Poke Tools here to increase your damage in the form of choice spells, and then our stadiums for this League Battle deck are Old Cemeteries, which we might cut. I'm not sure. Maybe keeping one of them is a good idea, but we'll see what we can do with that. And for our energy, very interesting combination, I'd say, for the League Battle deck, especially since a lot of the decks right now in the meta tend to skew towards one of these energies more than the other. But we have 4 copies of Fusion Strike Energy. We have 3 copies of Double Turbo Energy. And then we have 4 basic Psychic Energy. Now, as this deck is, it does leave a lot of room for differentiation. As I said earlier, a lot of the decks right now use a specific energy, one or the other. Most of them lean towards DTEs more often, so you'll see this version rather than the Fusion Strike Energy. But I think going forward, we may even see the inclusion of some regular Psychic Energy as the meta progresses. But then Fusion Strike Energy does have its benefits with making sure that your Pokemon are safe from the opponent's attacks abilities. And of course, if you are going to be running the Fusion Strike Energy version, you can keep these Alessa Sparkles, but if you're going to go to the DTE version, you can cut these 4 out of it. As this deck stands, I honestly think it's almost perfect. Again, you need more of these 3 cards right here. Bumping each one of these to 4 is a definite start. So let me show you what that looks like after we've cut some cards from this League Battle deck. But as it stands, I still think it's a really good battle deck. If you're starting off, this is probably the most competitive deck you can buy on the market right now. And of course, going into 2023, this is set completely to use standard legal cards, so you don't have to worry about rotation. It doesn't have anything that's going to be leaving in early 2023. So this is honestly perfect if you wanted to play it this way. But of course, if you want to get it more meta competitive, we're going to go over it right now. So because this deck came with both the Fusion Strike Energy and the DTE, I'm actually going to be making 2 different lists for each one of these. One that will use both of these, and then one that will use only the DTE. So this will give you a bit more of flexibility in how you want to build your Mew VMAX. But first, we're going to be taking a look at the version that uses both of them, but mainly focuses on using the Fusion Strike Energies. But if you want to see the ones that only use the DTEs, go ahead and skip to the chapter down below in the timeline so you can see that deck list instead. Alright, so taking a look at the Pokemon. As we saw in the contents of the actual box, we do have Mew V, but we're adding in, as I said, making this a 4-line of Mew V here. As for Mew VMAX, I molded over, and I think 3 Mew VMAX should suffice. A fourth one you could add, but you would need to take things out to add it in. And most of the time you're going to be attacking with maybe 2, at most 3 Mews in a match. So 2 or 3 is fine. And then our draw engine is going to be a 4 stack of Genesect V. Again, this thing with its cross fusion system lets you draw a lot of cards really fast that you don't really need any draw supporters or any other draw Pokemon in this deck. Now, to help with our Mew VMAX attack here, we're also going to be adding Meloetta. It does damage based on how many Fusion Strike energy you have attached to your Pokemon. So this is really good and helpful when you have all your Fusion Strike energy out on the field. And finishing off our Pokemon, we have an Oricorio. Now, this thing again came with the box, and for good reason. Taking 20 less damage is very helpful for making this Mew V live a lot longer in your games, making it, instead of 310, 330. Now let's move on to our supporters for this deck. As I said, this one does use the Fusion Strike energy, so having 3 copies of Alessis Sparkles is very helpful. Then we also have 2 bosses orders in order to get Pokemon we want to knock out easily using maybe the Genesect or the Meloetta's attack when attacking with Mew VMAX. Then, in order to cycle some cards in and out, we do have a Silene. This thing lets you put a card on the top of your deck based on how many heads you get from 2 coin flips. So you can get 2 cards at most, or nothing at all, but it's very helpful. That way you can get things that you need for your matchup. And the best part is, once you put them on the top of your deck, you can use Genesect to draw into those cards. And then rounding out our supporters, something I don't actually have at the moment, but this would have been a Serena. It is one of the best cards to come out currently in the meta, having 2 different abilities on it. Either you get to discard up to 3 cards from your hand and then draw until you have 5 total, or you get to switch in one of your opponent's V Pokemon. So sort of like a boss's orders, but obviously only for V Pokemon. Now moving on to our item cards, and let me tell you, there are a bunch of them here. Starting off with a 4 line of Ultra Ball. This is going to be how we're going to be getting most of our Pokemon. Then we have a 4 line of Battle Pass VIP. Hopefully drawing into quite a few of these in the very beginning of the game, so you can set up your bench a lot quicker. Then we have our damage booster here, Power Tablet, running 4 of them. Followed by 4 copy of a card that wasn't included, surprisingly, Cross Switcher. This is a Fusion Strike card, but it wasn't included in the deck. Cross Switcher lets you essentially have another boss, but keep in mind you do have to have 2 Cross Switchers in order to play it. And then finally rounding out our item cards for this bulk, and all of these, if you noticed, are all 4 stacks. These are all 4 stacks for items right now. We'll go into other ones in a second, but these are the Cramomatics. This is going to let you search your deck for a card. Obviously you have to discard a card to use it and then flip for it. So if you have maybe some battle passes you weren't able to use on your first turn, you can use them to activate this ability. Again, it's a coin flip, but hopefully you hit heads and are able to get what you need from the deck. Okay, let's finish off the rest of our trainer cards with 2 Lost Vacuums. These are going to be very important because a few decks out there still run a 4 stack of Path to the Peak. And let me tell you, not being able to use Genesect's Fusion Strike system is very detrimental to Mew VMAX. So we want to shut that out if we can. We have a little bit more draw here with Trekking Shoes. Then we also have some switching capability in the terms of Escape Rope, and we also run 2 basic switch. And then our stadium for this deck, Lost City. This helps us out in making sure that any pesky Pokemon we don't want ever seen again get discarded. So this is very helpful. And then rounding out, more damage with Choice Belts. Obviously these are going to go on to our Mew VMAX, but if you're in the rare case that you have to attack with Meloetta, attach it to that as well. Okay, now finally we have our energy. And as I said, this one was going to be a Fusion Strike Energy focused one. Fusion Strike Energy, you're going to want to use these to attach, obviously, to your Mew VMAX, maybe your Meloetta, in case you want to keep these from being knocked out or removed after a knockout, I should say. And then maybe using a DTE on the Mew VMAX for its attacks instead. Again, remember, it does lower the amount of damage you do with your attacks. Even if it is copied by Mew VMAX attacks, the attack damage will get lowered. But that is the upgraded version of using both the Fusion Strike and the DTE deck. Now this is doing very well in the meta right now, alongside the other one we'll go up in a second, but I do want to say that there is a very big chance that you're going to get bodied when it comes to certain decks. Now, as you can kind of see right now, we are only using special energy. And ever since Lugia V-Star's release, there has been a surge of decks that use things like Crushing Hammer or even Duraludon VMAX to prevent attacks from Pokemon that have special energy on them. Even the resurgence of the Pokemon Celebrations Yveltal that discards special energy. So I would maybe suggest adding in a regular energy of Psychic or two. That way you can use your attacks still using Mew VMAX, and maybe even including something like an energy recycler or energy search. That way you can find your basic energy faster. Another suggestion, maybe fog crystals that we saw earlier in the deck. You can replace maybe a Meloetta and some other cards with it to make sure that you can get into these basic energy. Alright, let's go into the other deck that we have that will focus on purely using DTEs. Okay, so for this next list, again, keep in mind, it's only going to be using DTEs for its energy. So the Pokemon we're going to be using, obviously, Mew V as our beginning spot here, followed by, again, 3 Mew VMAX. And then we have, again, our draw engine, Genesect V, again, an amazing Pokemon. But you'll see a difference starting now. We are not including the Meloettas and only using the Oricorio. So we're going to be using Mew's Max Miracle, Genesect's Technoblast, even the Psychic Leap from the Mew V. So you're going to want to have a benched Mew V almost at all times so you can copy that ability. As for our trainers, that also gets very diminished. We are running 2 copies of Marnie, 2 Boss's Orders, and then a single Serena. Again, I don't have a Serena at the moment, but those are all the cards we're running instead. As you'll notice, we did exclude the Silene, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's go over the rest of our item cards. We have 4 copies now of Quick Ball that we're adding in. We're adding in, again, our Ultra Ball, so keeping that consistent, as well as our Battle Passes, again, consistent. Our Cross Switchers, our Cramomatics, and our Power Tablets. So, our 4-stack item cards are still the same. Moving on, we did make some modifications to the other cards we did have in the previous one. We are using now 3 Trekking Shoes for more draw support. Only a single Lost Vacuum this time around. Keeping the 2 switches from before. And then the 2 Escape Ropes. But now a new addition, Echoing Horn. Now this, I really wanted to add in because being able to grab a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard and then use Mew VMAX to knock it out after maybe a boss or a Serena is very game winning, in my opinion. You could win a game just based off that combination there. Let's move on. We have Lost City again, 2 Choice Belts, and now a new addition. Unfortunately, I don't have this either, but you would be adding 2 Force Stone Seals. Now, the addition of Force Stone Seals gives your V Pokemon a new ability, and that is Star Alchemy, which lets you search your deck for 1 card and put it into your hand. So that card could be something that you need to maybe evolve into the Mew VMAX. You grab the Mew VMAX, or if you're trying to avoid more damage, get the Oricorio, or if you're trying to get rid of, or maybe you're trying to find maybe the boss's orders or Serena. or you're missing cross switcher to switch out your opponent's Pokemon for that knockout. Those 4 stone seals are going to be very important for this deck, because again, you are not going to be doing as much damage as you would the other one, which lets you copy Meloetta's attack. And of course, finishing off with our 4 DTE this time. Again, this is the DTE focused one, so you're going to be doing less damage, unfortunately, but you're going to be wanting to be very focused on knowing what kind of combinations to do and which one fits best for that time of that round. Now, modifications I would do to this deck, just right off the bat, looking at it once again, maybe the addition to Silene would not be a bad idea. Again, Silene lets you flip for 2 coins, and then if any of them are heads, you get to put 1 card from your discard onto the top of your deck. And of course, with Genesect V, you may be able to draw into those. As well, as I mentioned before, Psychic Energy may be a good addition because so many people are using anti-special energy decks at the moment, and running only 4 DTEs may be very difficult to do in this current meta. So maybe adding at least 2 Psychic Energies and then some way to be able to grab them back from the discard is a good idea. Now, in order to obviously add those kind of cards, we have to have things that we want to be willing to cut. Now, I would suggest maybe the Echoing Horn if you're not worried about moving basic Pokemon to get knockouts that way. Maybe even getting rid of some of the switching cards, because if you remember, Mew VMAX and Mew V both have 0 retreat cost, so that's a good thing. The only reason I would keep them in both this deck and the previous deck is a lot of people that run those anti-special energy decks are also running Galar Mine, which makes it harder for you to retreat. So having these switch capabilities is actually kind of important now. Other cards I might remove, maybe some Quick Balls from here, because we are going to be using our Battle Pass VIPs. Worst case scenario, you could always go down to a 3-2 line of Mew VMAX. I wouldn't recommend it, maybe a 3-3 line, but you want to keep your Genesect engine at 4. That is your main draw engine, and you do not want to mess with it. But that is the double turbo energy version of Mew VMAX that I would suggest upgrading to. So, what did you guys think of these upgrades? How would you be building your Mew VMAX deck? Would you be using both the Fusion Strike Energy and the DTE, or would you choose one or the other? Let me know down in the comments which of the 2 decks you preferred. And hopefully you learned something from this video on how to upgrade your Mew VMAX deck. If you did, get subscribed, leave a like, and comment down below what kind of modifications you think should have been in this video. Maybe you wanted to see some other inclusions, maybe some crushing hammers, or some other way to avoid that special energy discard. Let me know down in the comments. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, obviously get subscribed. We have a ton more videos coming out. I was going to do a Lugia V-Star deck, but there's so many out there right now that I'm thinking of doing the opposite and doing an anti-Lugia deck. So maybe we'll see a Mew V Union deck video, or maybe even a Duraludon VMAX video soon. So definitely get subscribed if those are videos that you think you want to watch. Anyways guys, as always, stay safe and thanks for watching.